Thank you, Captain Hoff. Yeah, it's like know when to tweak, when to change course, and when to cut loss.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kylie, for the great questions. So before the next speaker, I would like to PTR the room again. So please, everyone, look at the live beside me, the lady called Annika. If anyone want to join the QR code, a WeChat group, you can scan the QR code. Then we can have a further discussion and to keep our club's information update. And we also open the how to say 举手功能. So everyone, if you want to say something, you can raise your hand. We will invite you here. All right. So I will pass the mic to the next gentleman. Is Ivy. Ivy actually speak great Chinese, right?
Pretty good, yes. But thank you, Rister, for that. Hi, Captain Hoff. I've heard a lot about you, and I've actually read about you quite a bit prior to this. I've heard about you in the gaming industry because I was actually doing mobile app advertising while living in China several years ago, and really dived myself into the culture because that's really the only way, I believe, to survive when doing business in China in the first place, especially as a foreigner. And the need to speak Chinese and to dive yourself deeper. But I'm just amazed that, you're here. So there's really one question that I have, and I'd like to know a little bit more because I left China in 2018, and I want to keep up with what's going on. In terms of what accelerators and incubators are looking at industry-wise, what do you think the top, let's say top 3 industries or types of startups that people are investing in China, and also how does that differ in your opinion to what's happening in America or other locations? And that's pretty much my question, Captain Hoff. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and great to connect with you. So it's a real that's a good question. And in Silicon Valley right now, if you look around, AI has had a long run. So there's been a lot of investment in AI. But even with that huge amount of investment, there's still a lot more to be done because AI is so powerful and can be applied to almost any problem in the world and is always advancing. So there's more and more we find we can do with it. So those investments are still hot, even though it's been a while. Blockchain, blockchain is all the rage now, especially with cryptocurrencies at all-time highs. That's fueling it. With NFTs, selling for obscene amounts of money, that's fueling it. So there's a lot of blockchain startups. Although blockchain is much narrower than AI, you really need to find the right problem for blockchain to solve, and it can't be as broadly applied as other technologies out there because of its very nature. Biotech has been, going strong for years. And with CRISPR, gene editing, gene therapies, precision medicine, it's going to continue. We are just literally, uncovering the building blocks of life and what we can do with them on this planet. There's so much more in store there. And then, of course, space tech, with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos leading the charge, and Branson following close behind. This area is so sexy, and the ecosystem is growing so fast that both in China and the U.S. we see the same things happening. What I've mentioned so far, AI, blockchain, and space tech. China's booming too in those areas. Now that Biden is in power in the United States, we're going to see a huge surge in clean tech. So, his $2 trillion infrastructure plan, which is primarily based around new green technologies, this is going to be transformative for this country. China has already been a leader in investing in green technologies and, EVs and all these things, and that will continue. So again, both countries are moving in parallel. in this direction, and I think it's great for our planet. And it's going to be great for business. It's going to create a lot of new jobs, and definitely in Silicon Valley, we're going to see a huge renewed activity towards this. The thing is, there are so many promising areas. SaaS, software as a service, has been going strong for years, and it continues to reinvent itself and to go strong. In China, SaaS is not as big, but it's gaining steam. So we've seen SaaS lagging behind in China just because of the nature of how people do business there. They want to build it themselves and control it themselves. But more and more, we're going to see that change. Ali Cloud is huge. All these things are huge. E-commerce continues to roll in China. It's been the mainstay in China. It's going to continue to grow. There'll be new permutations, new companies popping up to compete with Alibaba and JD and Pinduoduo, and there's always going to be more. In the U.S., Amazon has sort of dominated e-commerce to such a point that we're seeing a lot of niche e-commerce players, but it's been harder for them to gain traction. And I don't, I think e-commerce is slowing down a bit, although there's still opportunities out there. And then there are just the beauty of technology is there are so many things on the horizon that are small now that could become huge. For example, brain-computer interfaces, tiny market right now, amazing technology and enormous potential. There are other areas with nano technology, incredible potential. Still, it's not one of the big ones for investment. Nanotech is hard, but nanotech is coming, and we're gonna, at some point in time, we're gonna see an explosion of nanotech out there that will really be transformative because the potential of it is so big. So I will say one thing: there will be more opportunities in the next 10 years than there ever were in the past. Like, it's going to be, the technology it's accelerating. The ease of applying it to solving hard problems is out there, and the tools are out there, and people are becoming better educated globally, on how to use these new technologies, and we're just seeing a multiplier effect. So I'm very bullish in the future. I will say that I do have to leave at 10 p.m. my time, so in 10 minutes or so. But excellent question, and I look forward to staying a little bit longer. Thank you.
Great. I know that Captain Hoff is really donating and contributing. So, Rister, just be mindful of the time, and so let's just keep running our guests and the questions as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Hoffman. And next we have our future star, Yuna. Yuna gonna have an internship in healthcare startup this summer, and I think very relevant to Hoffman. And now it's your turn, Yuna.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really flattering. It's actually a healthcare startup incubator. I want to express my gratitude for all of the speakers on the panel, and also Dr. Wen, Gary, Rister for inviting me. So, Captain Hoffman, I think you told a really inspiring story about yourself, like how you built your first startup. And I'm actually extremely passionate about like the whole startup and your story, and your insights really inspire me from a lot of different perspectives. So one of my questions is kind of related with my past experience of working for a healthcare startup. One of the biggest problems that a CEO encountered was when he resigned from a really reputable research center, believing he's going to be really successful doing his own business, but later figured there's a huge difference between when he was there, like carrying all those titles, and when he was on his own, just pitching the idea to the crowd and to the investors. So you said you went to the engineer school and had completely no business background and literally had to knock on the doors in Silicon Valley to get investors to listen to your ideas. So I know the process is going to be really hard, like without knowing whether you could get a response response or not. Like all the uncertainty had to be really struggling at that time. But my question is, I want to hear more details about how you finally got that investor to connect with you. Like there's got to be like one moment, like it's probably one sentence that really got to impress him. And I'm wondering if you still remember what it was. So it's like, how on earth did you get your first successful pitch to that investor?
Oh, yes, it's a good story. I will tell you that. And it didn't come easy because, that first angel investor dropped off and we had lined up a deal for other investors, some Hollywood investors who had a big VC firm there, all these famous people on their board of directors, including Michael Milken and, all these, star-studded VC firm in LA. They actually gave us a term sheet and they told us when our product launches, like literally, we can launch it successfully, they will write us the check. And we negotiated the entire deal, like down, and spent a huge amount of money, of our own money, on lawyers, to get this deal done. When our product launched, it was successful. And then we came back to them and they knew we were totally out of money. Like we were like totally out of money. And now we had this huge system with like 1 million users on it to run. And we said, okay, give us the check. We're done. We basically agreed on every term. And they turned around because they knew we were desperate at that point. And they told us that they wanted to cut our valuation in half. We couldn't believe it. And it was like incredibly, it was right before Christmas time when all the other venture capitalists go away. It was pure, it sent us into a tailspin. So we had a choice to take money from these people who had literally betrayed us, right? Or to continue on without them with really no hope of getting funding any time soon and no money to pay our team or anything to move forward. And what we ended up doing was we said, we don't want these people as our partners. We don't want them on our board if they're going to do this to us at the last minute. So we walked away from the deal. We walked away. And for the next 2 months, it was like excruciating, like trying to get a deal. I finally managed to convince Adobe, which at the time was Macromedia, to come on board. But they said they wouldn't invest unless we got, because they're a corporation, unless we got a top tier VC to invest. By the time February was rolling around, January was passing, it was into February, they walked us in to one of the top VCs on Sand Hill Road. I made my pitch to that VC. After I was done with the pitch, I was talking and talking. I was telling him, you're the first company that Adobe has walked us into, and we'll go see other companies and blah 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 blah. And I was really positive, so I did not let on that literally we had 2 weeks to go before we would just have to shut down. and our partners at Viacom and MTV that we were working with would kill us. So I just told them all the good stuff. And then I let it, because our show was what we were doing. Our platform was incredibly successful. We had lots of users. We just had no money, and we really needed to close a deal fast. The investor said after I was all done, they said, okay, I heard your pitch. I have to go now, and walked out of the room. And I was left sitting there. Did I say something wrong? Did I blow it? And then the investor came back 10 minutes later, as we're just sitting in the room, and laid down a term sheet for more money than we had asked for at the valuation we had previously had, which was a very high valuation. He just laid down $7 million. Like this was the first venture capital money we'd got. We had literally had no angel investors. We'd bootstrapped the entire thing to that point, just closing some deals with corporate partners. And he came back with that term sheet. And at that minute, I thought, why did he do this? What did I say that made him do this? And I realized there was one thing I said, and that was I was sitting with the president of Macromedia, which is now Adobe, in the room, and I had turned to him and said they were going to introduce us to other VCs. After, they had committed to doing that. That single word sent the message to him that if I let these guys walk out of the room, they're going to get funded by somebody else. So he came back, offered us the term sheet that same day. And do you know what I did? I rejected it. Now, you may say I'm crazy for rejecting, like we're, going to go bankrupt in 2 weeks. We have no money, can't pay our employees. They've been working for free. We have these super expensive servers to run. In those days, there was no AWS. It was really expensive what we had to set up. But I didn't reject it outright. What I said was $7 million is more than we asked for. We only asked for $5 million. But I will tell you what, if you can close this deal within 2 weeks, that was my magic number, within 2 weeks, I will accept $6 million. So I compromised. What I was doing is I would have been happy to have $7 million, but I couldn't beg him to close it in 2 weeks. I had to make it part of the deal. So I basically said, I will come up to more to your number, but you have to close the deal right away. He said, absolutely. We can get this done in 2 weeks. We can have the money wired to you. So, we did it. We closed the deal literally 2 weeks later, which is really fast. We had the money in our bank account and we were rolling. And that's my first story of closing venture funding. So I will have to go now, but I just want to thank all of you. And I want to say, stick around for Gary because he is amazing. He is like a dear friend of mine. He is so brilliant. Like the first time I met Gary, I was like, oh my God, this guy is like, he is brilliant and not just on one subject. He is brilliant like on everything. You talk to him about almost at physics or whatever you want to talk to him about. He has actually knowledge and he sucks it in. He's like a knowledge sponge. And I'm so happy that Gary and I could collaborate here, and we're already good friends, and we will do many more things together. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you,
so
Steve.
much.
Thank you. Let's all flash our mic because I think Gary is very eager to join us. But I want to say this, Captain. We created the WeChat room so everybody can scan Annika's QR code. In the WeChat room, people are already recommending the book, getting them from Chinese Taobao or different vendor. And someone has started listening to the book. So I really think that is such a great way to disseminate knowledge and share your experiences. And lastly, that please everyone to give applause by shining your mic, but most importantly to go to Captain's bio. And I think the first club is the founder space, which is his company has a club. So feel free to add the club and join the club. So Captain, thank you for the beautiful 2 hours. And we will do more of this together. What can I say? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wan. You are incredible. You are just wonderful. And I look forward to our future deep collaboration. And thank you, everybody else, for having me here tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you, Captain. Thank you for all the time. And we have a really great evenings. And we hope to see you very soon, maybe next week. And the other speaker, we can continue to ask your questions. Thank you. So
yeah, I just quickly say, Rister and everybody else, and I know Gary, he is going to be done with the meeting, so he will join us. So this is a time that you can really discuss your insight and on the topic of the book. And if you look at it, Claire, I really talked about the startups, the kind of people. If anything, I think the book also gives us a very sober view that, it is like a severe winter, harsh winter. There are a lot of adversity, and whether we are made to be a founder of a startup and to drive a unicorn. So I'll give Mike back to Rister. Thank you.
great. So although Hoffman is leaving, but maybe we can still continue to share the thought and share the experience. Maybe let's move to the next speaker. It's Scotty, our old friend. Hello, Scotty. How are you?
Hey, Rister, Dr. Gary, well, pretty much everyone here. Yeah, thanks for putting this together. You know, it's great listening. I'll admit, and I mean this in a good way. I'll admit I didn't understand a lot of the stuff because, you know, for me it's still pretty new, and to hear a lot of the stuff that's just beyond my understanding, you know, I was just like, oh, this is great. You know, it's good to hear it now rather than later. You know, and at least start to get a sense of what's going on in that side of things. Because I would say, you know, my main thing, and some people here have already heard it. You know, my main thing is, you know, I've been doing some online events through the pandemic, primarily hackathons, you know, just you know, tech education stuff. And I'm currently working on something trans-Pacific, you know, very much focusing on analytics and AI. You know, it's something I want to do for the summer, really take advantage of, you know, the new skill sets I've developed, and you know, to some degree, start really encouraging, or I guess two things. One is encouraging the talent and aspiring talent in North America and East Asia, primarily US and China, you know, to try to look more towards data and AI, but then at the same time to try to bridge the gap, you know, the cultural misunderstandings, you know, just in general, kind of bring everyone together in some way. And so I guess, you know, I guess my question is a little bit more, you know, obviously for me being born and raised in the U.S., there are going to be some things that I don't fully understand about the mainland mindset. On top of that, my parents are from Taiwan, so there's a little bit more of a cultural gap there in some way, at least, you know, between North and South and China. So I figured, you know, I guess, what are some things that, you know, for someone being born and raised in the U.S. that I might not understand about China, especially how it's developed the past, say, since the Olympics, for example?
I don't know. I think a lot of people on the stage, so maybe Scotty, is that your question about the so-called new China after the Olympics? Is that the question?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not sure how to phrase it exactly, but yeah, I guess it's kind of, you know, for me, even though I am Chinese, you know, I do come from a different country and all that. I guess, just you know, for anyone here who's been in China much longer and more recently than me, you know, just kind of curious what everyone's experience has been trying to bridge that gap.
Okay, so first of all, I want to quickly say Scotty Shaw, and he runs this Huayan Chaguan, the club, actually on Clubhouse. And I am actually very appreciative of Scotty and Avi, and also Amit is here as well, because the Clubhouse is really about transcending different culture and going to different communities. So I want to thank you for being here today. Scotty, I don't know exactly how to phrase these differences, but one thing for sure, and also leverage on what Hoffman was saying tonight, is that today's China, and I go in and out all the time, except right, you know, the pandemic. I really feel two elements that make me feel that I feel that I'm kind of out of touch. The one thing is the outcome driven. In all domains, in a lot of domains, from academia to business, the result driven. So I feel that the pressure to perform is very high. And they work so much harder. I really feel that they're so working harder. The second part is efficiency is extremely important. The speed is very important. So I think that's the one side that I feel very in a way that I feel out of touch, because I feel like I've been in Canada and the States, and I've been here for a long time. So I feel like that cultural norm and the speed and outcome driven kind of culture, I feel a little bit incompatible. On the other hand, I also feel these new generations, millennials, and also today Steve Hoffman touched upon this great talent. And I really 100% agree. The millennial, the younger Chinese generations, not only they're very technically competent, the knowledge, but also I feel they're much more psychologically endowed to be creative, to innovate and take the agency. And I really see a very different China. So we cannot say it's China, and that's why, all the stereotypes, etc. I feel it's a multiple China with different generation, with different city, with different subculture. So very complex, but China is my root. And I've been in the West for so long. My heart is aching because of pandemic, and I feel my journey back is not too far away. I just want to give everyone a quick update. I think Gary is closing down the meeting there, so he is very anxious, and he wants to appreciate everybody for the patience of waiting for him. And so I want to introduce our next guest, and actually Amit. I really get to know her via Avi. And Avi, maybe you can give a better introduction of Amit.
Sorry. I think Gary is back now. Maybe we can invite Gary to speak before Amit. Sorry, Amit. Is that okay?
Gary, can you flash your mic so that we know you're back?
Oh, I'm back, but please let Amit speak first. Thank you.
Actually, I'm not
Great.
sure if Amit is here. She might have knocked out
Okay.
already. So go ahead, Gary.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Amit, if you are here, please flash your mic. All right. So maybe back to Gary.
Okay. Well,
Gary, let me introduce you again. Okay, we have some new people, new friends, right? So Gary is a very seasoned veteran, VC investor in China, and his company is called C Saga. And Gary is a global citizen, and he has a lot of fans on Clubhouse. So I'm not going to really make a very long introduction, but Gary knows tonight is really about a startup, the founders, and also the qualities that he discovered from his investment, and really nurture his startups into probably a potential unicorn. So Gary, I'll give the mic back to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm really sorry that I've got a very intense meeting this morning, just back to Beijing. And so this always happens. There's many people asked to see some new products and new companies. So really sorry for 2 hours waiting. Actually, I'm a very good friend of Steve Hoffman, and we met about 6 years ago, and he's very, he have got very deep insight of the industry, and usually I'd really like to learn from him about the industry trend and all of the details about how to make a unicorn company. I give some short introduction and briefings about myself. Actually, I'm a very typical nerd 15 years ago, and I'm trying to build up the enterprise startup myself from Tsinghua University. So it's a very typical technical background entrepreneur here in China. I have a startup for 7 or more details, 8 times myself, from the technology company to the software company to website company, and also to some after that I do the investment and financing things. So I start up financing companies. It's been a long time for myself, and I find it's very difficult at early stage to do the startup myself, because I totally do not understand what a startup is. After being an investor for 11 years to this year, I realized many details, and I give many conclusion and summaries to many of my friends how to do the investment here in China and also in the global side. Well, first of all, I think the startup experience is very important. Many of the students and many of the early young entrepreneur and startup people do the business themselves. They find it's very idealistic. They have got an idea and they want to give the profile of their dream and then to do the startup. We cannot say it's dangerous, but it's not very mature to do the startup. I made my startup about 15 years ago when I was the junior of an undergrad. I have my company and then just put all my knowledge, which is the technology, to a new startup. I've been like this for 4 years, but it's very difficult to make this to a real business, to commercial revenue, because startup itself is not only product and technology. but also market and financing, and to do the relations with people, to control the trend of a big cycle. It's very important, but it's very difficult for young people to know all of this. So it's spent me at least 5 years to understand most of the know-how, how to do the startup. The first 3 startup myself is all about technology. I'm trying to use the technology model, which is physics and software, and calculating algorithm, and all of this to do the startup. But it's very difficult. And up to now, most of my alumni and friends from university, they're around 25 years old to 45 years old, and still stuck inside this kind of wrong cycle because they do not understand technology is not a thing that can make them startup successful. So it spent me at least 5 years to finish 3 startups to make me understand you have to learn more about yourself. So I gave up the first 3 startups, which spent me 5 years. I get many investment over there. I paid the bill and I gave it up. And I attend a new company to learn what is accounting, what is financing, which is KPMG, one of the biggest accounting company in global side. And in there, I learned a lot of the detailed things, due diligence, which I think Steve Hoffman has spoken it very much, which is very important for early stage company. If you experience many time of due diligence, and then you will know what is a real business, because due diligence is very intense from many angles. For example, from the transaction, from the business, from the model, from the financing, from the investment, from the technology and the product, and from the management and the organization of a company. These are all very important. And before the fully understand of due diligence, I think most of the people do the startup is really idealistic. So I get into the KPMG and learn accounting, financing, investment, merger and acquisition, and also about the due diligence, which is really helpful for me. And that makes me the foundation of my new company, which is Skysaga Capital, the investment VC company here I do. So that is my experience in early stage. Then I quit KPMG and I go to one of the famous PE company, which is Hope company in China, doing the investment of many pre-IPO companies, the big companies, and I learned there for over 3 years. And for PE, then I know most of the importance of big company, why they get successful, not only for those things I have spoken, but also the big resources and the big foresight of the trend of a cycle. So most of the successful companies, especially in China and Asian company, you have very high level resources. You have to have a network. Although many of the people have a very good insight of the industry, but if you do not have the high level resources, if there is not enough people, enough great people to help you, you cannot make yourself successful. It's very hard here. So I always talk to many entrepreneurs to have a best network, to build a best network is one of the most important thing when you're doing the and startup and when you're doing an enterprise yourself. Many of the investors here in China, they have their own circle, their own network. The people around you, for like 20 people, the close 20 people who help you, I think is the reason why you can be successful or not. So this is very important. I have invested in one of the most famous company, a music company in China called Douban Music, and that the CEO of that company is only 26 years old this year, and he started up himself from 19 years old, which is 7 years ago. He's very clear on building up a network himself. Although he's very young, he tried to use most of his time to connect and talk together with those great people. Some people like the CEO of a listed company, some the most famous VC capital investors, and most of the people active in the top a top startup circle. So that is very important. And for those people, I can give you an introduction of our resource system in SkySaga Capital. We have got a very big database. The database actually, it's just Excel, or it's very complicated Excel. It's a database. I have got 30 sheets inside this Excel, and within each sheet, there are at least 300 to 500 companies, institutes, and different kind of the collaborators together with us. And for each companies, there are at least 5 to 10 connectors. They are the founders, they are the business partners of our companies. So in total, within that database, which I spent my at least 10 years to make it the database, there are at least 2,000 companies and at least 20,000 people inside it. So this is my circle, my network, which support me much different from 15 years ago. This is the resources. I call this live resources that I can use all the time, which is very important to do the business in China because you have to find the right people, right channel to help you to do many things, not only market, but also fundraising, investment, and collaborations, different kind of things. So for this database, I think is very important, and it's also accumulation for myself, what I have done in the last 10 years. So to know people, to have a very good network, to have a great resources network is very important. I always tell many entrepreneurs that you have 6 steps to make you successful. The first step is that you are very talented for yourself, and you are very smart. You can analyze most of the things very detailed. And the second step is know-how and knowledge. You have to transfer your talent to knowledge and the deep understanding of the trend of the market, of the logic and the deep philosophy of a market and also the business. The third step is you have to change your knowledge to experience, to resources. So what I have said about the database and the resource network is about third stage. Once you have this circle and network, you have got enough experience, and then you can change to the fourth step. You have a wide range network of resources. Okay, the third stage is experience. The fourth stage is a wide range network of resources. Then the fifth step is build up the credit and the trust inside the market, which is very important. We all know that what is the financing itself. The deep inside of the financing is credit and trust. If you have got very high level moral credit, then you can build up a new business very easily. But if you deposit your credit to change it to money, to cash flow, that will lose your reputation. Then you hardly can build a big thing. So the fifth step is have a very high level and a wide range credit in China and also in the global side. So that's very important for credit and trust. And then finally, it's the success itself, like the capital, like the enough cash flow that you can spend in your company. So this is 6-step principle. I think it's very important to do the startup itself in no matter in China or in the US or in Europe, it's the same. So how to be a unicorn or a good starter of the startup business? You have to know that you change your talent to knowledge, to experience, to network and resources, and then to your credit, and then to capital. I realized when I was 25 years old, and then I'm trying to build up this system. And one of the visualized system is the database, because it's the link and the node connect all of the things. So up to now, for 10 years later, what I have to do every week is update my database. And I have to make the database to a live version because I have to connect most of the people. I make the rank of all of the people and inside the database, and I have to ask my colleagues to arrange my time to connect all of them. So this is, I think, is very important to do the startup and to do the resource arrangement. And after that, I have got a wide range network. I think startup become easier because you have many things that you can adjust and arrange. So I just help many entrepreneurs and a startup business and to do the startup. Not only just like people think the investments is to give cash and capital to some company. Not. No, it is not only the work I have to do, because I have to do more to help them and to bring them the value added to their company. So that's about something about my experience. And secondly, I want to share is that about people. In some yesterday in a room, I tell people how I do the investment and how to do the enterprise to make a startup. I say there's 4 things is very important. The first one is the right cycle and the right period. You have to know that for no matter an investor or entrepreneur, you have to know you are in the right cycle. You never do the wrong cycle, or you cannot do a startup when the big period is in downside. That will make a very disaster for yourself. So to have a fully understand of a different kind of cycle, like a financing cycle, like a industry cycle, like the technology cycle, is very important. You have to know where you are and what is the standpoint of the cycle. That's very important. For example, in 2021, for live stream, for internet of live stream, I think it's kind of cycle in the downtrend, but still there are some of opportunities. Many big tycoons and the big companies get listed, and the revenue space is get less and less. So if you want to do a startup this year to do live stream, internet, and try to build up MCN system, which is a multiple channel network of a live stream, I think it's not the best time. If you start up in 2019 and have a team of 100 people in 2020, maybe it's a very good decision. But in 2021, it is not. So you have to know where you are, and the cycle and the standpoint of the cycle decide the risk and the revenue, which is ROI and the Sharpe ratio of your startup. So this is very important. And the second one is the power and the energy of each cycle. You have to know the thing you want to do, the startup business you want to do. What is the total power? What is the bottleneck of this cycle? It's very important. Many of the people have got really good power and energy themselves, but they select and choose the wrong industry, which is really limited. The industry is very limited, so that they cannot expose their energy to the entrepreneur and then to the business. So you have to find a big market. It's very important, and at least the industry and the business you choose have got a very good potential market. And you can change it easily. Many of the company is very hard at first, but because it's very vertical, so it's very hard for them to change their direction and the industry. Then and later, we call it evolution. We always say that evolution. What is evolution? Because the market is not big enough, and the resources and the labor cannot use their power to expose to the market. So don't make yourself into the evolution industry. That is very important. And also the power, not only we say that it's the industry, but also for people. You have to find a powerful partnership. The people is very important. Once we do the investment, and what kind of people is adapt to have a great to do the investment, to do the startup themselves, is the people who have a great power. I think this kind of people is very rare, and most of the people have a good idea, but they have not enough power to do things, and not enough execution power to do things. So this power is very important. They have to be very energetic. They have a very good health and do the startup all the days. Most of the people, CEO I work together with, is very powerful. They work at least 17 hours per day, and we call it 996, which is we work 6 days and 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But always we have a joke. It's 007. what is 007 is to do all the time you do the startup themselves. So I think the qualified best CEOs just think about their business all the time. I do not know whether you have seen the book written by Elon Musk. He is that kind of people. He think about his business all the time, almost 110 hours per week. So energetic is very important. So this is about power. And then the third one is you have to find the best point, the time point to get into the industry. Actually, I have explained already because we talk about a cycle and the period. We have already talked about the time point. And the last one is to have the decision. I have heard some of the words from Steve Hoffman just now. He said, make the decision and kick them off once you have to. It's very important. In China, there's a proverb called 杀伐决断. What is 杀伐决断? Means that to be a great warrior, you have to know when to kill. You have to make the decision very decidedly. You have to decide it very soon, and making the decision and do the killing things. It's very important for 杀伐决断, no matter in a war, in a history, but also it's very important in the business market. So that is very important. If you are very hesitant, you are not the one to do the business. We always say that many things, they're not wrong or they're right or wrong. There's nothing is absolute right or wrong. But the only thing is you have to do is to make decision quickly. Because once you make the decision, you move on. And the market will teach you what is right or wrong. You can iterate yourself. But if you hesitate over there, the time will pass and you will lose the opportunity. So killing and doing the decision making is very important for a CEO. But it seems like very easy to say, but once you're a CEO yourself, I think it's very difficult, especially when you face a big, intense pressure over there, and many people cannot make the decision making very quickly. So that is very important. So that's about decision making. And we go back to the people. The only people who cares and understand have a deeply insight of those 4 points, which is cycle and period, and the right time point, and also the decision making, and have got a power themselves. Those kind of people can do the startup business very well. And I have got many principles about the summary of a great entrepreneur. I can give you some introductions for this. First of all, we have got a 3 stages principle. What is 3 stages? Once you do the startup yourself, there are 3 stages you have to get through. The first period is from 0 to 1. There's a book about 0 to 1. I think that book is pretty good. I read that twice. And then 0 to 1 is very important because many educated people, it's very hard to have the 0 to 1 period because their mind is limited. Their mind is doctrinal. They care about too much things. From 0 to 1, you have to work naturally. From the deep inside nature, you have to do the business yourself. What kind of business model I can build, and whether I can have the returns very quickly. So 0 to 1 is very important. According to my experience and statistics, I think many of the people who set up the business very quickly are the people do not take the high-level education. I'm very sorry to say that statistic, but it is the truth. So the more you educate it, the more you format it, I think is become an obstacle or pressure to make yourself to do the decision. So if you want to do the startup business yourself, so you have to set your mind free and do whatever you want, which is legal and in the moral. Inside this circle, you have to do the things as soon as possible. So flexible is very important, and then you can finish from 0 to 1 stage. Okay, the second stage is from 1 to 3. This is totally different from 0 to 1. From 0 to 1, you have to move quickly, and you have to find opportunity very soon and beat and compete your competitors. But from 0 to 1, from 1 to 3 is a very difficult stage because you have to be professional. It's totally on the opposite side of from 0 to 1. So why startup and doing a business is very difficult, because in different stages, almost people have to have almost opposite capability to do the startup. So from 1 to 3, you have to be professional. You have to go to business school. You have to have a very nice, well done system and organization of a company. We always say that a good company and a bad company is that about the organization things. Whether you can organize people, resources, capital together in a big agency, that decide whether you can business and company very fast. So organization is very important from 1 to 3. That's why most of the entrepreneurs from pre-A round to C round, they always go to business schools to learn how to build up the organizations. Later in tomorrow, Dr. Wen and I will have another speech in Chinese to talk about the book I've written last year. It's 社会的齿轮. It's the gear of society, which mostly I describe the business and the history about organization. It's very important. So organize is very important. Once you can organize resources, data, and people and capital with high efficiency, and then you can do the startup business very, very well. So this is the most important thing from a 1 to 3 stage. And for the third stage is from 3 to billion. That's the last stage that you do your enterprise. And in this stage, many great CEOs say the same thing. The only thing you have to do once you have your business get bigger is find the people, find resources, and find capital. So in the third stages, we compete with each other. It's the only thing that whether you can absorb or find enough resources that including the labor source and including the capital and including the different kind of resources like supply chain, like different kind of resources or raw materials or partners inside your industry chain. So the capability of persuasive and to find more people to work together with you is the only capability that you need in the third stage, but it's a really rare capability. Some of the people may persuade some of the people around them, but it's very difficult for the people to persuade all of the world resources to work together with you. So for the third stages, I think you have to have the very big insight of the market, and also you are very attractive for your personality. So this is very important for third stage. Like Steve Jobs, he's very typical the successful people in the third stages. So that's the 3 stages principle. And I want to share some more about our principles. I think it's very important to do the startup and startup business. One is we called 4.6 商业 is 4 principle and 6 quotient. I can say some of the quotient. It's very important for people who is very powerful to do the startup. The 6 quotient is IQ, EQ, and which we all know that. I will never explain that. And it's the FQ, the financial quotient. And this is very important. I will explain it later. And it's adversity quotient. Is that the capability that you can face the difficulties and whether you can change the bad situation to the good one. So this capability is very important. And the 5th one is political quotient. That means that whether you can arrange all of the momentum around you, like the people, like the different kind of resources, that if you can arrange it well, then you can have a very good business. And the last one is a moral quotient. This 6th quotient is very important for people to be powerful. I can explain the financial quotient first. The financial quotient is that if you want to do business well, you have got a very good capability to smell where is the opportunity of business. So the smelling capability is very important because there are many kind of opportunities inside the market, but most of the people, entrepreneurs, cannot realize where is the real opportunity over there. So it's a great pity because they just focus the only thing on their hand, but actually there are many opportunities around them can quickly and easily connect to their main business themselves and enlarge their business very quickly. But just because they are not a good architecture of the business, so they cannot realize maybe for the whole life. So the FQ is very important. FQ is generally based on EQ. That means those kind of people who is very flexible and emotional that can feel many opportunities around them. Some of the people have very high IQ. They have got really good knowledge of technology or science, but they never discover the good opportunity just around them, just near them, next to them. So FQ is very important. The next one is about AQ, which is adversity quotient. This one, I think, is as important as FQ. The adversity quotient is that once you face a big pressure, which is happened all the time in my life, whether you can change your attitude and change your mindset in seconds or in weeks or in years. If you can change yourself very quickly and change to a good mindset and a good attitude to the all of the bad things, then you can quickly push up your momentum and power so that you can do the business very well. According to my experience and statistics, most of the good people in the schools, those best students, they have very low AQ because they cannot face the pressure. Once they have got an obstacle in front of them, they feel big, intense pressure, and they cannot get it through. This phenomenon, I think, is a link to the psychology and some of the social philosophy, because most of the students inside the university and the schools, they are cultivated and stimulated by teacher and the goodwill of the schools. So they cannot make a very high AQ because they always are praised by teachers and friends that you are a really good student, and then you have done very well, then you have got very great potential and perspective of your next step. But this kind of people, it's very hard to do the business because there are millions of pressure and difficulties every day once you are CEO, especially the first founder of a business, because all of the people around you want to hurt you once you do the business, because most of the partners and people just inside the business is really real because you have to face it. Some of the good student attitude or good student mindset always think that always too idealistic to do the business. So they do not have the adversity quotient, so they never have a best solution or good solution to solve the problem when they face a big pressure. I have been in the business war for over 15 years. I have to do different kind of quarrel and different kind of business and conversation all the time. We have to talk most of our partners, and we have intense meeting even every day. So even each of the meeting, if everyone have a different mindset, everyone have a different the benefit driven. So always we have the conflict. Once the conflict happens, you have to make it. You have to lead this meeting to a good situation. If you have a very low AQ, then it's very dangerous because you are very furious, or then will quickly make it to the bad situation. So AQ is very important when doing the business. I think maybe it's one of the most important things. In the last 10 years, I have faced, some of my friends know that I have faced at least 3 times I want to suicide myself because the pressure is too intense that I cannot bear it anymore. And for myself, when I with my grow older and older, and then I have more capability, can bear more pressures. I think this is one of the most precious thing entrepreneur have. Many great pressure, you can melt it into a momentum that you can easily handle. This is very important. Okay, so that's about adversity quotient. And the next one is about political quotient. And this is very interesting. And what is that? About PQ. PQ is that apart from the FQ and the EQ, that you can have a profile of a map of your business. For a good entrepreneur, you have to have a map inside your mindset, the map of resources, the map of momentum. You have to know what is good for you, what is bad for you, what is the next trend of every detail inside your business map. This is very important. And the political quotient is that kind of people have a very good capability that can arrange and push it forward. They're like a magic people. They can push it forward to a better situation. There are several movies and several series, like the House of Cards, like the Game of Thrones, like the Three Kingdoms in China. These ones are all talking about what is a political quotient. Actually, inside a business world or inside a very big map, everyone is stuck into a situation, and there's no one can move it very quickly. But you have to be a very good architecture to make that situation better for yourself. So you have to design. It's very important. Most of people never design. They just follow the trend of the big map, and that will be very dangerous. You will become one of the bishop of others. So that is very dangerous. And for a good entrepreneur, it's like the people who play the Go, because he always design the next step. What kind of people can work together with me? What kind of enemy I have to kill? So this is very important. You have to have that map, and you have to arrange it and push it forward. So that is about political quotient. And the last one, I think, is very important too. As important as political quotient is moral quotient. Many of the people do not have the moral quotient. They just do business for once. They cheat all the time. They do not do the very cheap cheat, but they have got very they do not have the long term of view. So this kind of people cannot do business for the second time, and can only earn quite a little. Maybe for once they can earn million, but they had never capability to have a long-term business. For moral quotient inside China, there are many different directions. One is we call the 人和. 人和 means that you have to get along with people all the time. You never in China there's a proverb: for one more friends that you have a new path. For one more enemy that you have a new wall in front of you. So this is very important. And for moral quotient is that you have to build up more paths and more channel, but less walls. This is very important. So once you do everything, you have to think more whether I can benefit my friends, whether he's happy or not, whether it's a long-term relationship or for short-term. You have to know that. And we always change our standpoint on others, especially the people who care more. You have to stand on their own standpoint and think about the benefit that they can have, and whether they can work together for a long term is very important to do business. So for this 6 quotient, I think it's kind of a principle or judgment way that you can understand the people. That is very useful for me, and it's one of the structure we usually use. There are many other principles. I do not have enough time to share. Something like vision, decision, execution, which is very important. Some of others. So I think this is very important. For the last one, I want to share one more. I'll finish very quickly. It's about the deep understanding of a big trend, like macroeconomics, like history. I think this is very important. most of the startup entrepreneur in the early stages, they never care about this because they just do the 0 to 1 thing. I think that's right because you have to be very focused to get your revenue back and to get your returns. But once you get to the second stage, from 1 to 3, you have to care more because most of the enemy and a competitor, they're powerful and stronger than your thought. And if you want to compete them and you have to do better compare with them, you have to have a high level of understanding of the world and society. So most of the CEO, I think, is successful. They are very deeply inside of history. And they always talk about philosophy and also about macroeconomics. They are the expert of it. So if you are in the middle stages or you have already go past the first stage of 0 to 1, I strongly advise that you have to more vision of macroeconomics and history. I think that's very important to do business. Okay, I just finished here and would like to have a Q&A together with you guys. Sorry that I spent too much time on this.
No, wow. You know what? I think first of all, Gary, if anything, it's worth the wait. We've all been waiting. And what did I tell you? I mean, you must be as overwhelmed, but at the same time be enlightened and inspired. I just want to, I don't know how we keep track of the notes, but one thing I do know, Gary, we urge you to come up with this English book. I have a title for you. I would call it Geared Up to Be an Unicorn. I think the gear is a keyword. He loved the word gear because the gear is, like a wheel, and it's very systematic. And this is his background. I mean, I've been in many rooms with him. I listen to him, and he's madly and passionately always throw out these very systematic knowledge. And I really think he has a very well-structured set of knowledge. Just recap, I just want to say two things. One is, he's really talking about the stage. I mean, we talk about the 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to billion. And I think along each stage, what are the qualities? The second part I think is very, very important is that, just like, Hoffman was talking about different methodology, different insight, and I'm sure Charlie has a different one. And each one of them has their own method and system of understanding. And I really want to recap here is you have to find the right cycle. You really need to know the power of the cycle. You need to find the power people. You need to find the timing. You need to know the decision. And when you make the decision, you have to do it fast and you have to do it decisively. And I think these are a few things I want to cap. But lastly, I just want to recap about the 6Q. And I think it's perfectly aligned with some of my knowledge, my coaching of leaders, and I call them superhuman. So the 6Q that Gary is saying, I just want to quickly recap from the brain. You need to have a very powerful IQ, finance, the FQ, political knowledge, PQ, and also from the heart, you have an EQ. You have to have a moral, quotient. I mean, being ethical, and it's very important. It's more sustainable. And from the foot, because you have to execute, it's AQ, which is adversity quotient. And one last thing, and I do know about Gary, is that in order to make those decisions, I know Gary is very big on cognition, on knowledge, and I know himself is very, his appetite for learning. And I just want to say that one thing I learned so much is the political quotient, the PQ, is really comes with knowledge of history and microeconomics, and most importantly, the forces in our era, the bigger forces, so that you can make judgment. You can see the future. You can see the trend, so that you know where we're located in the trend. Where are we? Are we on the up trajectory? Is it slowing down, or are we on the cusp of going down? So going up and going down. So I just want to say, Gary, I'll provide the notes, and I really urge you to write your own version, gear up to be a unicorn and a superhuman. I'm going to say he's one of those people that never sleeps and never rests, but I think that intensity of knowledge output is just outstanding. I'm going to ask Rister, and also we do Q&A, but be mindful that a lot of my friends on the East Coast and also West Coast, etc. So Rister, maybe we can actually pick a few questions, and maybe someone can flash your mic. You have a compelling desire and great questions you wanted Gary to get back to you. Maybe we do it that way. I want Rister to help me moderate this room. We have some great friends here, and also I noticed Samantha joined the stage. You can also, she's really undoubtedly the influencer as well. I hope that you get a chance to dialogue with Gary. Anyway, Rister, I'll let you take over. Oh, one last thing, I'm sorry. On the second row, Annika has QR code because Gary's Chinese book, I'm sorry, I'm so grateful he can do the English language sharing today, and I'm very happy because I think he is bilingual, but his Chinese book is The Gear of the Society. That he has to, he will share, we'll do a club tomorrow, a room, but we need to settle the time, and we'll do it, announce the time on the WeChat room, or you can just try to, I don't know, to follow me, to click on the clock, so that if I'm in the room, you can be pinged or reminded, and I think that's the best way, because we're going to figure out a very special time to really go over that, but that book is profound. I love it. So I'm going to let Rister to take over to manage our flow of Q&A. Thank you, Rister. Mike is yours.
Great, thank you, Dr. Duan, and thank you, Gary. I feels like attend a university whole lecture, and even more than that, with the knowledge and the wisdom and everything. Really appreciate and really glad. And thank you again, Dr. Wan, to invite Gary here. And I think everyone learned a lot as well. Thank you. So maybe let's start by flashing your mic. If for the rest of the speaker, anyone want to speak, maybe you can flash, then I can invite you. Okay, I see David first, and then Ivy second. So David, maybe you can start. Thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me speak here. Well, Gary, that's an excellent speech and a lot of great points. I want to keep it short. So this topic is about unicorns. So I want to see, given your experience and insights, how do you evaluate or screen next ventures startups to be a unicorn? What are the standards that you use to see this one could be potentially a unicorn? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Well, it's a very good question that maybe every venture capital company wants to care. I think different companies have different rules and principles on this. What I have shared is actually maybe part of it have already explained your question. It's about the right cycle, right period, and the timing point, and also the decision making, and also about the right people. I think for a unicorn company, first of all, it has to have a very good team. And we always say that if you have got a first-class team and second-class industry, that you can have a great possibility to get success. But you, on the opposite, if you've got really good industry, but a second-class team, I don't think is great possibility that you can get successful. So for people, I think always is the core part of startup business. And I think there's many principles, rules inside this one. For example, whether they can work together well. For a good team together, first of all, they have to make the decision very quickly and precisely. We always say that a good CEO is the core part, and also a good board is also very important. A decision of a company is made up by two parts. One part is CEO, and the other part is a very good board that can very rationally make the decision, and can see and change and the mistake made by the CEO. So that is very important. So decision making, I think, is the symbol of a good team. So that's the first part, and we have to have a very good team. And within a team, we always said there are 5 different kind of roles that they can make good decision. First of all is the leader, which is CEO. The second part is you have to have a warrior inside your team. Warrior means that the people can rush and then can kill, can make the killing, can execute the decision making. So you have to have the warrior. The team which they don't have the warrior always make the good decision, but there's no one go to the war. I think it's a great problem. So that's the second kind of person, people inside a team. The third part is we say that the strategic thinking. They are kind of people who have a very deep insight, and they always have a deeply thinking of the trend and of a long-term trend. They can change they can turn the direction of the company. So this kind of thinker inside a company is very important. Many of the company I've seen that they have warrior and leader, but they just focus on some detailed things, and they make it very well, but they cannot avoid big black swan. The black swan means that there are systematic problem happened, and no matter how you do it well in the last 5 years, or no matter great effort you have already made, you're dead because the big black swan happened. So once you're a thinker, it will help you to adjust the direction of a company. So the third kind of people is the thinkers is very important. The fourth kind of people inside a company we think is very important is how to say that 工匠 is the people who can work the very detailed things. Yeah, this kind of people, they can they cares about very details. Some of the company, especially in China and Italy, is very, very common because people cares about big trend, never care about details. So the product seems very, it's not very, the product is kind of rustic or kind of not very refinement. How to say that? Maybe refinement is very important for a company. You have to let others know that you cares about details and make the product very detailed. So this kind of people is very important inside a company. Most of the China national company and big companies have got this kind of problem. The people talk about politics, talk about a trend, talk about the next stage, what will happen, but they never make it down to earth. So this kind of people is very important, who make the details and do the product. And the last kind of people is lover. It's very interesting. What is lover? Who is lover? Lover is that kind of people can connect all of the people and bring down the conflict inside the company. In our company, we have got lover. Lover is not it's not definitely a woman or a lady or a man. And actually, lover can be everyone. This kind of people who have got very special capability that they can put the fire aside, then they can make the company back to the track. This kind of people is very rare, and then they can, and maybe some of people think that this kind of people is not very important because they never bring the real productivities, but actually they mend and they make the productive relations better inside the company. Some of the CEOs and the leaders never care about the productive relations. This is a very, very big mistake. Most of people think that once we have got a lawyer, then this kind of company can do very well. It is not. Productive relations, I think, is as important as productivity itself. So lover is the one who can make the productive relations better and better. So I think this is very important too. And these 5 kind of people is very important in a team. Actually, this is the model. The model actually, I do not invent it. Actually, it's a model used by many big companies like Goldman Sachs and McKinsey. It's very important once we see a company, whether they're on the right track or not, we always use this model. So for the team, we give the summary here. For a team, I think we have to balance these 5 kind of people. Once you have got a very good team, you have the right industry, then you can go to the right track.
Well, Gary, I want you to take a pause and drink some water. And I want to say 2 things here. This is blowing me away. And I want to, a second time on Clubhouse, I want to recommend the book. Is Henry Kissinger's book on China. Because I think earlier people asked about Steve Hoffman, about the Chinese and also U.S. differences. And you can see there are 2 top-notch VC leaders in the field. And you can see how their methodologies are actually quite different. And I just want to touch upon 2 small points here. One is really about very big cognition, and cognition is not just about the knowledge, but also the trend, the bigger picture. And Henry Kissinger, in his books, talking about the Chinese way of thinking is like a checker game. Checker game is like black and white. And that before I make each move, I'm not going to only look at how the opponent will react. I can predict as the result of each move of mine what is the next 3 to 5 steps of the enemy. So I think it's very interesting that Henry Kissinger pointed out, because it is truly systematic thinking, predictive thinking, and so that you have to have enough knowledge and also to gather data in order to know that trend. So I think Gary, in many different rooms, really big on these holistic understanding. I think that's a good word to capture. The second part that he talked about, people, right? So unicorn is led by people. So the second part is very much people driven. You need to have a leader or warrior or craftsman. And I think Gary used the word lover, and I give another word called a pacifier. Pacifier is really about to glue the team and try to make things loose, to keep harmony, so that we're not really fighting with each other. So I think it's very interesting, because you can see each type of the quality requires very different persona, different quality, different personality. And I also did a lot of leadership research, and which shows that for superhuman, the unicorn leaders, and ironically, sometimes miraculously, they're 4 in 1. They can be like that. They can be a magician. They can be a leader and a warrior and a craftsman, and they can be pacifier. That's why they're superhuman. However, sometimes when you don't have all of them, you need some of them. That's what team is about. So the other thing Gary and also Hoffman was talking about it is that as a great CEO, you actually have impeccable reading of people and impeccable understanding of the composition of your team, so that there is no blind spots in this kind of quality of people. So I really like that question. I think that Gary is actually having a very long stretch of meetings, and you can see he shared and deeply grateful, and also compliment the view. So I have to push him to get the English version of this book out, so that it really complements Steve Hoffman, maybe later Charlie's view of these VC and startup and unicorn. I'm going to let Rister to moderate the room so that we just do 2 more questions. And don't worry, Gary, and one thing at least we can do him a favor is that not only you have to follow him, but also go to his bio, and he's about it is the first one. This light blue. It's actually I think is the second one, the rocket. The rocket is called Startup VC Union, and I think that's the perfect way that you can actually add him as well. So I'll let Rister to run 2 more questions. Flash your mic so that we can let you speak. So Rister, can you moderate?
Can I follow up with one question? Gary, really appreciate sharing your perspective from investors.
I'm sorry. Yes. One thing you can do, you can really add us where we can connect because there's so many people who really want, and he can only take 2 more questions. And I apologize because this is our style. Yeah, if you want to echo, maybe give you 15 seconds.
Yeah, okay. So you give a perspective from investor view, but I think most people here are trying to entrepreneurs, they try to build themselves. So if you twist the table, if you're an entrepreneur, how do you pick a field, an industry, or a business idea that could potentially be a unicorn? Thank you.
I think I have to go back to my cycle thing because unicorn always happened in front of next cycle. For example, you have to choose what is the real technology, and you have to know what is the real business. For example, in the last 5 years, there are many shares.
Do you think unicorn is by accident, by luck, or by design? Most unicorns,
of course not.
By luck.
For some of the people who run the company, maybe by luck. I think luck is only 1/3 of the unicorn business, and the other 2/3 is about effort and very deeply inside of operating management and understanding of the industry. So I don't think luck is a real reason because you can unicorn, but you have to have luck.
Yeah, I agree, and I really want Rister to move 2 more questions, and we really treasure space my time with Gary. So Rister, let's go.
Great, thank you. And I think the next one is Ivy, and last one is Samantha. So I don't have time.
Thank you, Rister, and thank you, Dr. Wan and Gary, for hosting this amazing room. Always love hearing Gary talk and drop those knowledge. It's just a great refresher. I don't really have a question. I just have a comment. I'm going to save all my questions for Gary in about 8 hours when we're hosting our next room. So just plug in the event room quick. I'll be hosting a room with Gary and Kate, Dr. Wan, and Rister, which is all about investing in China at about 10 I think 10 p.m. Beijing time. So if you all want to check it out, please follow Gary, Rister, Dr. Wan, and Kate, and you'll be able to see the room. And I'm just going to plug that in really quick and go to sleep, like about 5 hours. Thank you all so much for coming today.
Great, thanks, Ivy. Let's Samantha.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here. Actually, I have this question for Steve Hoffman. I think it should be okay. It should be just interesting platform for this room, like focusing discussion, and also for Gary. And again, thanks to Dr. Wang for organizing this room. And actually, I didn't read the book, but I just probably my book, but you already for me. And one thing I want to echo is like the last question, and Steve discussed with Dr. Wang about women leadership. I'm working for a unicorn company. Well, it's not just a unicorn company now. It's like a huge international company. And for women, they may face some specific problems that male may not know how to face. In a big company, it could be kind of reflection that this systemic problem in the society. However, actually very curious about how could women take advantage of the characteristics in leadership, especially in startup company, and how do you see the difference between men and women in entrepreneurship? Yeah, I'm finished with my questions.
So Samantha, Gary, did you get a question?
Yes, I got a question. I'm driving, and I know the question is very tough.
I think I don't know. It's like we can actually. I think we could like somehow discuss about that a little bit because I have also my personal experience when I work in a company, and I'm really curious about if there's some differences between when you work in a big company and when you start your own your own business as a woman. Yeah.
So Samantha, I'm going to I just want to say that we're going to do some rooms with pitches and help the female investors and also female entrepreneurs because that's my passion. So Gary, you don't need to go very exhaustive and comprehensive because this is really something I'll put up your shoe to go to that part of the world. So Gary, the mic is yours. I think driving my connection.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's okay. Perhaps next time I could join, another event, specifically talking about this, when the leadership and the internship. And personally, I'm very interested in this topic.
For your information, every day I will host a room for female entrepreneurs and female leaders and female investors. So it's always also very high, powerful, very emotional room as well. And I would urge you to check it out. And Gary, are you there? Great. So chime in.
Sorry, my signal is maybe not better. If there's no answer, it's just around up. Okay, the statistics I've mentioned, as a percentage we invest female CEO is very high compared with other venture capital companies. The percentage is 10% or a little more, more than 10%, which is 12. So this percentage we actually invest quite a lot of female CEO. And what happens then in the next 5 years? Most of them. They find a man partner and work together, and then one of them make them company bigger and bigger, which to the C round, and annual revenue is about $2 billion. This company, this company is one of the biggest luxury company in China. We invest here in China. The CEO of it is a female CEO. And she is a very strong, power CEO, and I think she's really typical female CEO herself. He keeps discipline very well, and also she knows that the boss line of herself. She run this herself for 4 years, and for fourth year. She finds it really difficult for herself to bring up the company anymore, and then she wants to quit not quit. She wants to find someone to lead the company as a new CEO. She becomes one of the board or one of the board of the company. So I think she's very rational and know the mistake, not the mistake, know the short and advantage of herself, and then put herself into a very very good place, and then make a very good decision. So this is I think the best female CEO I've ever met. I think most of other female CEO, I think this is that's why I say this is a very tough question. It may be for most of the engineers, it's the same problem, not only for female CEO, but most of the overall experience that change their industry and their field. Only this one is the only successful case I've got.
Thank you so much, Gary. We do know that the world statistics is 3%. So half percent is almost 4 times more, 4 times, but is it enough? So I would love to shift and work with people like that to the top of women. On that note, I think Richard would have, I think Katie is really flashing the mic, and I want to say, Kate, thank you, because Kate is a very nice young woman who is the mother of my big cloud. So she helped me to move to that space. I want to say, Kate, probably have a last comment and question of the day, and we're going to do a very quick recap and close the room because it is 2 o'clock Eastern time. It's 1 o'clock after midnight in Central time. And again, very long day. Hey, you are there.
Hi, Dr. Wang. Thank you so much. It was a great room. I took notes already, and I don't have any questions. I will flash my mic to Avi. Thank you so much, room. Super interesting.
Great. That means that we do, I don't know, Kai, are you there? The last comment from my guest on the stage.
I think we should leave ask question or comment to other people out there. I just want to thank you and Gary and thank you listeners and everyone.
Thank you so much. I really want to thank everybody, and I just want to say any class has this chat group, and Gary and I will quickly decide at the time of the room tomorrow. I love people check out the book, The Year of the Society. We'll share the information of that book. It's in Chinese, and probably I can be a powerful agent to help Gary to push out English material in the book form. And so I just want to thank you for my team, for Rister. And Gary, I know you have a very long day. Thank you, Diana. I know you have a very long day. I just want to say the following. If you check on there, the picture next to Gary, I want to leave us with this point that all the road not be taken, because I think entrepreneurship and the leader, the whole journey is extremely challenging as we learn 6Q of all this. And the last 3 rows, the black sense of what I get from tonight is that it's from my favorite poet, Robert Frost. 2 roads I diverged in the wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And I love that few lines which captured the sentiments and what it feels to be an entrepreneur, startup CEO, and a unicorn. On that note, I want our musician, Chris, to pick up a few music and do music, do the count down the room. And I want to thank everyone for your precious time and devote to this room. We spent more than 3 hours, and I'm so happy that Gary will knowledge bomb, and I hope that Gary will put out the English book so that our English audience will get a chance to absorb his wisdom. I'll let you have the mic and the music.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Wang, and thank you, Gary, and everyone for joining us. I even myself learned a lot. And everyone, please don't forget to follow Dr. Wang and follow the little green club on the left corner to support Dr. Wang and have the event more often. And I will play a music over event today. And thanks everyone again.
You can check each other and also follow each other. And if you don't get a chance to speak today, we'll host more events. And I'll let Mr. Day do a nice 10-second countdown, and I'll close the room. Thank you all. Have a great day and a good evening, and we'll hope to see you again.
And happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, great. So let's count open and then we will close it.
Easter, happy Easter.
All right.
9, 8,
9,
7,
15.
25.
20.
21.
21.
Good night.
Thank you.
Everyone have a wonderful day.
Good night, Canada. Good morning, UK. Love you all, my friends. See you soon. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. you.